Did you participate in the Winter of Care and Repair challenge last year? And do you plan to do so this year? This week, I'm welcoming the creator and host of the challenge, Jeanna Wigger, back onto the podcast. Jeanna and I have both been thinking about how we can use the challenge to implement the changes that we want to see in the world, on a personal level, community level, and a global level. If you enjoyed the recent What We Do Now episode, you're going to be into this one. Jeanna and I share what important actions we plan to take in the months ahead. So, if you're looking for suggestions about powerful actions that you can take that are totally doable, stick around a few minutes. Welcome to Check Your Thread, the podcast that will help you sew more sustainably. My name's Zoe and I'm obsessed with sewing. I've been blogging about it for over 16 years and I'm the creator and host of the popular handmade wardrobe challenge Me Made May. But, like many people, I've become increasingly concerned about the climate crisis, and I'm looking at the way that my lifestyle contributes to it. So in this podcast, I'll be nerding out about making clothes whilst exploring how to minimise the negative impact that it may have. I really hope you'll join me in this journey. How are you doing, lovely one? I hope you're not feeling too stressed out if you participate in any of the major festivities that happen around this time of year. Personally, my family celebrates Christmas, albeit in a secular kind of way, and I know how stressful it can feel, particularly if you have kids. If you are preparing to be involved in some kind of festivities, it can be incredibly hard to stick to your sustainability guns, can't it? Especially when you're spending the festive season in someone else's home, like we will be. But remember, any win you can achieve at this time, no matter how small, needs to be celebrated. And in fact, wins of any size have the potential to be magnified if you're seen by others as you do them. So, if you're hanging around with friends and or extended family, make sure they see you using paper tape rather than plastic sticky tape to wrap your presents. And make sure they see you going around collecting up anything recyclable once the presents have been opened, you know? We've got to normalise all these more sustainable actions. Humans are social creatures after all, so when we see people we know and care about doing something, we're way more likely to do it ourselves in the future. In that vein, I asked Jeanna, today's guest, to share a recent sustainability win with me. Jeanna said, "While travelling internationally last month, I managed to not use any disposable water bottles. I bought a small stainless steel refillable bottle and was able to refill it in the airports and at families' homes whilst I was in the US, avoiding any single-use bottles. While it's not major and feels laughably small considering that I did this whilst travelling internationally by plane, it's one of those tiny habits that feels important to integrate and be able to maintain when out of my normal routine." Thank you for that, Jeanna. And here's one, or rather many, from lovely Check Your Thread patron Angela. Angela has been so busy that I've had to edit this down a little bit. But the gist of what Angela wrote is this. "A few months ago, I decided to have a garage sale, a yard sale in other countries, to pass on lots of the items our children had grown out of and things that we no longer needed that were taking up room in our house. There's an annual initiative in Australia called the Garage Sale Trail, which many local councils support. I decided to have our sale on one of the 2 weekends of this event. I registered on the website, advertised on Facebook, plus flyers and signs around the neighbourhood and local shops. I put a lot of hours into it, and we made 221 Australian dollars. Not bad. My main motive, though, was to find new homes for the items, rather than donating and potentially going to landfill. I was even throwing things in a free box, as my fiancé was telling me to throw things in the general waste bin. I'll do anything to avoid items going into landfill. I ended up with 2 large boxes of free stuff, and some of the bits were taken by customers. Even a short length of clear aquarium hose with a tiny bit of mould in it. Our family are planning a trip to the Sydney Aquarium, so the funds are going to that. The leftover items I'm trying to consciously move on. I've listed many items on Facebook Marketplace, books to a local waiting room and local street libraries. Brand new items that were unwanted gifts will go to a local domestic violence shelter for women and children's Christmas gifts. Clothing, shoes and bags are going to a church organisation that requests donations. Many items I had left over from the free stuff can go to the local tip for recycling, metal offcuts, automotive fluids and such. Anything left over I'll give away on a local Buy Nothing page. Oh my goodness, sounds like you've passed on a huge amount of things, Angela. How awesome for your home and headspace to be rid of all that clutter also. Speaking of wonderful patrons, this week I get to say big thanks to Sarah for signing up to support the podcast with monthly donations. Welcome to the Check Your Fed patron community, Sarah. Okay, I can wait to no longer. I'm desperate to get onto today's topic. As I mentioned at the top, Jeanna and I are discussing how we hope to use the Winter of Care and Repair Challenge to focus our attention and actions on what we do now, in particular as a reaction to the US election results. Something I also wanted to add that I forgot to mention in my conversation with Jeanna is that I intend to start wearing a face mask again when I'm on public transport. I want to help protect medically vulnerable people and their carers, and also myself and my own family, because getting sick is not fun for anyone, is it? As usual, the show notes for this week are teeming with links to everything that we mentioned in this conversation. So until next week, take care of yourself, take care of those around you. If you're wrapping presents this year, try to use recyclable paper tape rather than plastic sticky tape, or better still, some kind of reusable wrapping. Oh, and enjoy! Okay, so sorry for the ridiculousness. What just happened was about 20 minutes ago, I just nipped upstairs to go to the loo before setting up to record and found on our landing a dismembered pigeon.
Right. Dave had other ideas, I'm guessing, today about your activities.
Was not what I was expecting, nor desiring. So I had a little panic. Well, it was the wings and a foot and some feathers. I don't know where the rest of the pigeon is. And I had a quick look around, couldn't see. That could be a surprise for later. But then, because as soon as I finish this call, I have to go and get my kids. There's not going to be time to tidy up. I had to deal with that. And then I was just starting to set up. And then a massive lorry just pulled out the front of our house and was leaving its engine idling, which was really loud. So then I just had to grab all my tech and bring it upstairs and set it up. And then I just sat down and sent you the link. Then I realised I never did the thing that I intended to do, which was go to the loo. So that's why I had to send you that panicked message. Like, if you join the call, I might not be there. But
Right. And it's one of those things where, like, you're like, I'm going to take care of myself. And then thing happens, and you're like, wait a minute, I never took care of me. So here we go.
Here we go. Right. Thank you so much for this. I feel like you've been in my head, actually, because I was just re-listening to the first episode we did when I was just out and about, and it was so good to listen back.
Yeah. I haven't listened to the first Winter of Care and Repair one we did around this time last year. I haven't listened to it recently, but that theme, of course, has been in my head a lot lately. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to chat with you and share some ideas and vent probably a little bit also.
Yeah, this is so necessary. First of all, I just want to say, how are you doing? Because I know you're about to move.
Yeah, fine, I guess. Maybe a little bit in denial. Fortunately the move is like a slow-paced one because we don't have to be out of our current house like on any certain time frame. So we're gonna move into the new place, and then we'll be able to like hopefully slowly but not too slowly like finish up some improvements on our current home after we're out of it. And then of course, before the move happens, I'm gonna go home and see my family in the States for about a week. So busy.
Right. So when will you start like sleeping in the new place?
Probably the second week of December, maybe.
Right. Is it nearby?
No. It's like almost a 6-hour drive away. We're moving to like the central west Spain, a little town south of Salamanca. So totally different. And it'll be a new adventure.
This is very exciting.
Yes. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Also, we know that we're moving from, like, 20-degree sunny weather in December to, like, 5 degrees Celsius-ish weather.
Oh.
So it'll be a little...
Is it high up, or is it just in the centre of a landmass? Like, what's making it that?
Both.
Right.
Both. Yeah, it's higher elevation. It's in the mountains. There's lots of hiking trails around and fresh water and rivers. And
oh, that's going to be really different to where you are now then, isn't it?
Yes, it will be. But we're excited, and just looking forward to, trying something new and different, and yeah.
So let's squeeze a challenge in there as well.
Right, because, I'm framing it as, I think, okay, just a disclaimer here. during this discussion, I will at least, and probably you, make multiple references to Gretchen Rubin and her habit changes and ideas for framing habits. And so this to me is a fresh start, a clean slate sort of opportunity. When I move into the house, it coincides with Winter of Care and Repair, which will be, sort of stressful in its way, but also, again, that opportunity for like clean state and kind of hopefully that opportunities to sort of establish the habits that I would like to carry forwards in life, because I can kind of frame them within Winter of Care and Repair.
I love that so much. That is so positive. Because when you just said we might be referencing Gretchen Rubin, I thought you were going to say we might be referencing the US election results.
Oh, that too.
Which we'll probably be referencing as well. I'll do a big old disclaimer at the beginning, because I think we all need a bit of a dose of well, not all of us, but a lot of us need a big old dose of reframing and positivity and direction, probably more than anything right now, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. So that has certainly been on my mind as I'm preparing for the move and the new season, and sort of coping with the now what of this election outcome that was definitely not what I was hoping for, or sort of, acting towards in, the last few years. So, yeah, what do we do? What can we do?
What do we do? So at this point that we're talking right now, I've just released the episode, What Can We Do Now? Basically, or what do we do now? Have you had a chance to listen?
I did, and I loved it. And I thought, it was exactly kind of what a lot of us needed to hear. Sort of, we've had a little bit of time to let things sink in and sort of get through that initial stunned period. And personally, and I hope that others are feeling this way or starting to get to a point where they're ready to feel this way, to think about what are some concrete things that we individually and kind of as a community can try to do to still put our values into the world and positively make change in light of sort of this dumpster fire that's going to be ongoing in the US for a while.
Yeah, absolutely, and beyond. Certainly the effects are going to be global. But yes, I actually love that you're moving right now, because that is literally clean slate. What do I want my life to be like going forward? So that is super positive. Not all of us can move right now or want to.
Nor would I recommend it. Not necessary, but.
But because I was starting to think, oh yeah, the Winter of Care Repair's coming up soon. I need to check in with Jeanna, check that it's going ahead. So, start to make announcements about it on the podcast. And it was right at the time when, it was like, oh, okay, this is a really interesting timing for this challenge. And we were having a little back and forth on via messaging. And it seems that we're in a similar kind of mindset in terms of okay, this could actually be really good as a way to focus as a collective on what needs to be done now. In terms of the Winter of Care and Repair, how are you framing that this year?
So for myself, I mean, the challenge is going into its 5th year now, and anyone who wants to hear more can go back and listen to our episodes from last year and then the recap that we did in the spring. But
sure, I'm going to stick all those episodes in the show notes so people can find them super quickly and easily.
Perfect. But it's been this seasonal challenge where, for myself, I've physically fixed something or worked on caring for and repairing belongings every day between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. And people are encouraged to, of course, do whatever they want that's care and repair related that feels right for them. This year, what felt right for me is to shift my perspective beyond just my belongings to more of my circle of impact, things that are within my circle of control. So while there's a lot of things that are totally outside of my control that I'm still worried about, things that I do have control over are how I spend my dollars or don't spend my dollars, people I choose to support, sending emails, contacting, kind of these action items, connecting with people, connecting with community, sharing information. And I have lots of specifics that I've been thinking about.
Awesome.
Sure
Yeah, we'll get into the specifics very shortly, but that's amazing. So I was just making some notes prior to us discussing as well, and the way I'm kind of framing it is care for and repair of our communities, our families, and our bodies and our planet, really, and kind of I mean, that's super broad, and then I kind of went back to the episode that I've literally just released and all those action points that I feel that could be within a lot of people's control. What does that look like for me? Like, what can I actually do? And then I was also thinking back to the first episode that you and I did that really explored the whole idea of the challenge. And I liked what you said about it's about actions that are out of your normal everyday routine. So I think we were joking that like cleaning the bathroom doesn't count, but it's like it's about pushing ourselves, not to the point where we're stretching ourselves and making ourselves like ill or unhappy or stressed, but what can we do beyond just the everyday things that we do in our lives that have benefit, and I think that has been a really useful, like going back to what you said about that, has been a really useful framing for me.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that like something that has made this project impactful for me, and based on the feedback that I've gotten from other people who have participated, is the flexibility of it. So you get to choose what feels right for you, what's manageable for you, what's sustainable for you with your time and energy, and then also the longer duration, because it's 3 months long. So rather than just like kind of cramming it in for a week or 30 days, there's really this opportunity to potentially change habits and potentially change, your perspective or habits, or, and also have an impact on people around you who see you or hear about you doing, these things every day. I think those are some key things about it, that where, you do something, even something small for like 90 to 100 days, it really adds up. It does really add up with that amount of time.
And people can see you doing it over that period of time as well. It's like, it's not just a random one-off. It's like, oh, Jeanna went to the refill shop. Jeanna keeps going to the refill shop. I should go to the refill shop.
Yeah.
Like, where's this woman going?
Yep. And tell me how I can get there too, because it seems like it's something doable.
Yeah. Because I can't remember what the statistic is, but there's something like people need to see something 7 times before they then act or even maybe even acknowledge. So with that period of time, it's more powerful and impactful.
Yeah, we're not whether it's signing up for an event, trying a new food, adding something into our new routine, it's not a one-off sort of thing. It really is dozens of times that we have to kind of see and experience stuff to actually be able to like make those changes. So tell me about some of the specifics. Tell me about some of the changes you want to make, how you want to develop new routines. Tell me everything, please. Okay, so I will, I suppose, start with kind of my plan that I don't have it totally worked out, but I think I've got the structure of it so far. So I am this year going to continue with a daily repair of a physical thing, because I get a lot of stuff done. It makes me feel good. I like mending stuff. So that might be 5 stitches on something. That might be a whole complete start to finish garment repair. Something else that I did last year that I'm going to try to continue this year, because it did leak over, although it's faded a little bit, is using my foam roller for my shoulders. So it's like one of those foam, this is part of maybe the self-care aspect of it, but I have one of those like foam roller log things, and it really does help make my shoulders feel better, especially if I'm spending more time sewing. So that'll be a little self-care thing that I will do.
Nice.
And then I'm going to do, I think, in the format of Power Hour, Empower Hour once a week, build into my schedule, a chunk of time where I send emails, sign petitions, maybe do like a little online training, education thing around something related to something that's important to me.
Oh, I love that.
So I think if I kind of schedule that in as like this hour, at some point during the week, it'll probably float around depending on what's going on that week, but I will kind of make some dedicated time to make sure that all of my politicians know how I feel about things. I'm also a Patreon of Aja Barber, and she has been sharing on her Patreon action items. So that'll be part of my, well, I've already started doing that, but it's going to be part of Winter and Care and Repair for me as well.
So just to go back to the Power Hour, so that's a Gretchen Rubin idea, isn't it? If
it is, yeah.
If I've got that right, it's scheduling time to do the things that often don't get done. Is that right?
Yeah, so something that can happen at any time, often happens at no time. That's one of her, well, probably paraphrasing one of her sayings. But yeah, actually scheduling, like, this is the chunk of time where I'm going to do this. And I mean, it might not even take an hour if you're doing it regularly, or that week you might have just, 20 minutes of things, but making sure it's on the schedule so it actually happens.
Brilliant. I love that, because people could even do power half hour if they don't have much time, like it's something that could be adaptable for a lot of people, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I say power hour because it rhymes, so it's kind of catchy, but it can just be like email time. I don't know. Whatever it is.
So that's going to be predominantly things where you're communicating. Yeah. And it's not like communicating with a friend. It's something where you have to go and find an email address. It's something where you have to kind of sit and comprise the kind of message that you're not regularly sending, possibly.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that because this is something I've done periodically in the past, I sort of have templates that I kind of tweak, so that I'm not reinventing the wheel every time. And if you look online, there are lots of kind of templates for emails for human rights issues or climate issues, whatever, and it's always, it's recommended that you kind of take a couple minutes and just tweak those a little bit to personalize them a bit. But certainly don't have to, but it's something that you can kind of have a quick
That's
template.
So good. That's such a good point. Yeah, you don't have to craft something yourself. There are templates out there. And I also want to say, for UK listeners, it is super easy to find the email address of your MP. Literally just have to type in to Google or whatever your search engine is, find my MP, and then there's a page on the government website where you type in you don't even have to know what kind of constituency you're in. You can just type in your postcode and you can easily access the email address of your area's MP.
Yes, and I will say for US listeners, you can also type in who is my US representative into Google, and house.gov will let you do the same thing. And I think senate.gov as well. So in terms of US listeners, that would be for your national representatives and senators. And then if you type in, who's my representative for my state, you'll get the same thing. And you have to enter your email or your zip code and sometimes your address on this for your state representatives to make sure that you are within their jurisdiction. But make yourself a little Word document once you find them once. Make yourself a little Word document with everyone's emails in there. Save them into your contact book. And that'll be easier to find the next time.
Yeah. And I just want to note, for the UK again, like when you are emailing your MP, put your postcode in the subject line. I guess they must get like a massive volume of messages and emails from all sorts of lobbyists. So if you put your postcode in there, they know that they're literally working for you, theoretically.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Even if your state or your representatives share your political beliefs, it's still super important to remind them so they can go and say, hey, this is a concern for my constituents. They care about this. And, stepping back, there's we have the national level, the federal level representatives and senators, but every state has their own senators and representatives too. And the state level, I mean, that's a bit of a big theme of the U.S. elections this year is leave it up to the states, leave it up to the states. The states are allowed to individually have regulations that are more strict than the federal regulations. So this is particularly, I mean, it can go either way, right? But in terms of like environmental regulations, if let's say the Environmental Protection Agency lightens or takes away some of their regulations about air quality or water quality, the states themselves can have stricter regulations that control, that pollution or that the quality, the environmental quality there. So the states can still put more protections into place.
That's really good to know.
At that level. Yeah. So I'm a registered voter in the state of Washington, and they have several lawsuits that are ready to go from the state level that are challenging some of the federal regulations that they were anticipating should Trump have been elected. So those are, I think they have some lawsuits ready on the environmental front and civil and healthcare rights. So those are things that the states can do to kind of frustrate or slow down, even if they can't stop some of the regulatory changes from going into effect on the national level. So it's still worth making your voice heard if you have the bandwidth for that.
Sure.
Some of us might not right now, and some of us might just think like, I have to step out. I have to step away for right now. I'm going to focus more on my community. I'm going to participate in my local mutual aid group. I'm going to just focus on reconnecting with the people that like build me up and make me feel rested and fulfilled. And, you know, my season is going to focus more on like rest and recovery for me and just being able to build up and be ready for a period of time a little further down the road.
Sure. But once again, that's the benefit of this longer challenge, isn't it? Like you may be feeling differently come February, you know, you may be ready to engage a bit more in kind of more the national stuff. I just want to mention as well for UK that petition.parliament.uk is a really interesting website that has got lots of petitions that have been set up, and every petition obviously covers pretty much every aspect of life, but there are a lot of kind of ones that are involved around environmental things and community things. But every petition that gets 100,000 signatures has to get considered for a debate. So finding petitions that chime with your values, sharing them on social media or emailing them to your nearest and dearest will make an impact, because 10,000 signatures across the UK isn't really that many. So you can force things to be debated in Parliament, no matter what your local representatives' beliefs are, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's, I think, another piece that I've kind of been thinking about is there's also like a lot of organizations out there that are not politically non-government organizations that are doing lots of really, really good work. So like the Aura Foundation has often has petitions or campaigns going that you can again share, sign up for, email brands. They have their Speak Volumes campaign that's going to be wrapping up, I think, next week, or which would be the last week of November. But they're a good one to follow if you want to kind of take action in regards to clothing waste and human rights. Fashion Revolution has lots and lots of like community building education on their website and just educational things that you can kind of share if you want to focus on getting the word out. I also just kind of out of curiosity Googled community organization training, and there is a lot of like free online resources if that's something that you're interested in trying to get into. So there are some good free and paid resources out there, you know, depending on certainly always if you are in a place where you can financially support these organizations, you know, it's a good way to kind of vote with your dollar and support the entities that are doing a lot of really good work out there.
Yeah. And there's lots of ways you can support them if you don't have the financial capital as well, isn't there?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, just taking the trainings, because they can also see, you know, they probably get grant funding based on how many people have taken and participated in their thing. So don't not do it if it's free or, you know, a paid or non-paid option. Don't not do it because you can't pay for it. Still do it because that's what it's there for. Yeah. Another thing we've been talking about doing is switching over some of our money that's going to subscription platforms to instead monthly donations to independent journalism organizations.
Right, nice.
Kind of if you can, like redirect something in your budget if that's within your means.
Yeah. You don't necessarily need to find more money for new subscriptions. Yeah, think about what things are you not using, what things are you not getting value from, or have you maybe have decided you don't no longer want to support, and redirect those funds rather than trying to find new ones.
Yeah, because that's not always possible. But again, like even if the financial support is not in your current allocation, just sharing and spreading the word is is huge, because more people know about it, the better. What else can we
Well, I'm thinking, like, in terms of the money, like, and the situation that you're in currently, like, you're about to move. So presumably you'll be setting up new energy supply company contracts. Like, you've got the possibility there to find a company that is supporting renewable energy production as opposed to fossil fuel production and stuff. And it's not just when you move, like, anybody can do that at any time. And in terms of what we were talking about not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to find new funds for supporting important things. Sometimes they cost just the same, or possibly even less sometimes. So in the UK, we're with Ecotricity, which is technically a charity. So their energy is 100% renewable, and the profit that they make, because they're a charity, it doesn't go to shareholders. They invest it into generating more renewable energy supplying technologies.
Nice.
So and it didn't cost us any more than the energy provider we're using before. I think my mum's with Octopus. That's another UK one that's renewable. So those kind of things, it's not hard to switch. I think they legally have to make it quite easy to switch. Switching your money, that's one that's on my list, actually. Moving your money to a more ethical bank or investment entity is one that can be done.
And those are things that maybe, like, in terms of kind of framing it within Winter of Care and Repair, maybe you have a list of 3 or 8 or a dozen or however many things that you just want to, like, do maybe during the season, and you give yourself sort of that 3-month time frame to research and find a new bank and learn about switching your whatever contracts over. And so it might not be necessarily like a day-to-day or week-to-week action, but maybe you come up with like a list of things.
I have to say, for anyone that's interested in doing that, go to bank.green, no matter what country you're in. Bank.green, you can say what country you're in, and you can put the current bank or building society or whatever that you have your money in, and you can put that in, and they can let you know where they are on the scale of ethics and sustainability. Your bank might be fine, but it might be really bad. When I put mine in, it came up as I was with HSBC, was the second worst in the UK for funding fossil fuel extraction. Ouch. And I've been with them since I was 16. So, and it'll help you.
I have a feeling ours is probably pretty bad too.
But... And then that website will also help you to research a better option. And it'll also really step-by-step take you through the steps you need to take to switch. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for, if that's what you're interested in, that's where you can go.
That's super useful to just like know what to, at least have a starting place to look for.
Yeah, and you could put that in your power hour. You could put that as one of your power hour tasks. I think it's more like 2 steps, because you have to apply to a new, find which new bank you want to go with, apply to it. That can take a couple of days to get approved and everything. And then so maybe the next week, your power hour is then doing the switch, which is actually quite easy once you've got the new account set up.
Yeah, and you can break some of these more onerous feeling tasks up into smaller steps. So first, I'm just going to research the
Absolutely.
bank. Find out where my current bank stands. Then the next week, I'm going to take on figuring out what would be the alternative. And, so you can kind of pace it out like that, and that can feel a little less overwhelming.
That's a really good point, yeah.
And then there's also, of course, like in the midst of all of this, like big actions that we can take, like taking time for yourself to rest. Saying no to things that don't serve you anymore. Maybe saying yes to things that do serve you better. During this season. You might also just make a list of things that you want to be open to the opportunity for.
Ooh, give me some examples that you're open to the opportunity for.
So I think, I was thinking about this, if you're like wary of committing to this big list of must-dos. Just think that I would like to, during this year or this season, I would like to do a closet audit and just see what the state of all my stuff is. Fibershed has a really helpful closet audit out. That might be something that you just put on your list to try to get through during the season. Maybe it's that you want to, there's nothing that's scheduled in your community now, but you would love to try to participate in some sort of rally or protest or
litter pick or
Yeah, litter cleanup, or like maybe a repair cafe opens up, or there's like some event at your public library. These are things that maybe they're not actually like on the calendar, but you want to remind yourself to look for those things. And if I guess this would be more things that are kind of out of your control to schedule.
But to make that step easier to yourself, you could maybe sign up to a local Facebook group that often advertises those things, or sign up to like Eventbrite and specify that you're interested in things related to community, sustainability, whatever your things are. There are ways to put yourself in front of those things. I'm not very good at it. It's something I need to be better at, or searching like your local hashtags on Instagram or something. Get on those algorithms.
Exactly. And maybe that goes on your early power hour to-do list, is to like find some local Facebook groups, sign up for your city hall's weekly email list, or follow them on social media or whatever. Yeah. If
you're not clued up, find out who is, and get in front of them.
And if you are clued up, share not just with your professional circles, but start sharing that stuff perhaps on your personal social media as well.
And the other way as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Share outside of your normal circles, whether it's mending stuff, whether it's community events, but try to like make those different silos of life kind of cross and blend a little bit more.
I love that, because you don't know who's interested in things until you tell them about things.
Right. And I know that I have my People's Mending Instagram account, and that's sort of where all of my like mending related garment industry stuff goes. But last year I sort of accidentally didn't realize that I was cross-posting onto my personal Facebook page from the People's Mending account, and I had all these friends and family members who were like, I had no idea you're interested in this. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna try it. I was like, oh duh. I think that we kind of tend to, especially the way the algorithms are set up these days, it's like you sort of get into your lane, you get into your silo, it only gets shown to those people. So trying to branch out and
such
share.
a good point.
And gosh, like bonus points if you can share with people in person. If that's, you have access to people and your community, like getting together in person. Again, if you're geographically and physically able to do so, it's so easy to just kind of live online these days. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Saying hello to your neighbors, as you did last time.
Yes.
The latest episode. Yeah.
Should I go through some of the plans that I have? Because you've touched on so many of them.
Yeah, please do.
So I went back to my episode basically, and I just pulled out kind of the main topics of the things that I was suggesting that we can, or that we might potentially be able to achieve. And I was just thinking, like, what does that look like for me, So, for example, I started out with talking about how we can actively move to strengthen our local communities. So for me, that means getting the neighbours that I talk to round for food and drinks. I'm going to offer to mend the textile items of the neighbours that I already have a connection with. I'm going to encourage new connections, because I've started chatting with a neighbour that's a couple of doors up, and he's starting a WhatsApp group for our street. And I know he hasn't done it yet, but I've got his number, so I'm going to encourage him to do that, and then we can start communicating the whole street. It's not a massive street, but I think that would be really good.
But it's people that you regularly see and regularly have interactions with. I think that's great.
Yeah, I'm excited about what that could end up with. Then we were talking about connecting with organisations, groups and endeavours in our local area that are doing good things in areas that are important to us. So that's what we were just talking about in terms of like finding out what's going on, finding out who's doing stuff, because we can have so much agency when we're working on our own, but if we can plug into existing networks that are already established, that means I think we can have power quicker. We can have influence quicker sometimes.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So for me, that is, I've found out where my local repair cafe is. It's not super local, but it is in the city, because I'm on the edge of a city. It's in kind of the other end, but more central of the city. So I'm going to start going to that. I'm going to sniff around if they could do with any more textile repair people. So I'm going to get some stuff mended, and I'm going to sniff around, see if they need any volunteers, because I think that I could volunteer one Saturday a month, which I think is their cadence. And whether or not they are up for having me there, I'm thinking about, with a friend of mine, Sophie, who's also been on the podcast a couple of times, we've developed a connection with a local community centre. We were kind of supporting them with some stuff for a bit. And I think that they would be open to us starting a repair cafe in our area. And there isn't one in our little locale. So that could be really cool. So it'd be nice to kind of volunteer somewhere else for a while, get more of a vibe of how it all works, and then maybe start one up, a smaller scale, more local one. So that could be really positive.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the meantime, you're also going to be like broadening your sort of circle within your immediate community. So when and if that repair cafe more locally starts up, you'll be able to spread the word.
Yes, I'm really excited about that for sure. Looking after our bodies is a big one that I'm not good at. You were talking about using your shoulder roll. Very good. For me, I need to develop a bit more of a routine when it comes to stretching and using weights. I need to strengthen my upper back. It's something that regularly starts to hurt, and I know that if I had a bit more muscle there, that would be a less frequent occurrence.
I think that's like a curse of all of us as computer
yes,
users and so
exactly.
We just like everything's always like down in front of us all day. So
absolutely. And
yeah,
as an owner of a female body getting older, that's something that, you know, weight training and is important. So that's something I definitely need to look into. Doing some yoga on YouTube, because that's free and it's something I can fit into my day quite easily. And I'm going to do veg brie again. So veg brie was when my family, well, 3/4 of my family spent last February only eating meat-free meals for the whole month. I think we had one cheat day, but I didn't use mine. I'm very smug. But the purpose of it was to kind of force ourselves out of just the easy, sausages and mash, because that's an easy dinner kind of thing, and explore more meat-free options that are family-friendly. And it was really useful. And there's probably about 3 or 4 recipes that we discovered during that month that I now regularly cook. And I want some more.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's cool. Go to bed earlier. I know that's something that probably a lot of us should be doing. So for that, I'm going to reset the alarms that I used to have that kind of nudged me towards bed at a more suitable time. Is that something that you are guilty of doing?
For you. Oh my gosh, I'm so bad about that. Especially now that I haven't been working for the last year and a half. Like, I don't have any accountability to need to get up by a certain time. Our dog has to take a medication at 7 a.m.
Right.
She has to take it every 8 hours. So, but there's nothing stopping me from going back to bed. And I tend to be kind of a night owl anyways. So yeah, that's something that I could definitely work on. And I'm really tempted to I'm tempted, but I'm also know myself, and I'm not sure how realistic this is, but I'm really tempted to use Winter of Care and Repair and this move to be what are all the good habits that Jeanna wants to have? I'm trying to do it, but I also know that I'm prone to being overwhelmed and scheduling myself into no fun Jeanna. So I have to
can you schedule fun?
Find that balance. But yes. I live with a much more spontaneous person, though, so I really try to be mindful of leaving open space to be spontaneous.
Sure.
Because I would be scheduled down to the half hour and function that way, but it's gotta have a balance.
I hear that. Awesome. So prioritizing rest, such an important one that I can't. I think everyone needs to hear. I'm terrible at resting, finding time to rest, allowing myself to rest. I'm always right, next. And if anything ever gets cancelled, rather than going, oh, cool, right, well, now I've got that time to myself to relax or whatever, I'm right, what else can I do then that was on tomorrow's things to do list? I can get that done quicker. And it's really unhealthy.
What strategies are you thinking about doing? How are you going to try to kind of put that rest at the forefront during this season?
Good question. I think I'm going to have to schedule it. It sounds ridiculous, but I think I'm going to have to, until it becomes more of a muscle memory for myself, I think I'm going to have to, at the beginning of the week, be look at what I've got going on. Which evenings am I literally going to sit on my bum, watch something trashy, do some knitting? I think I'm going to have to maybe do that. And also all these other tasks, I'm going to make sure that I'm aiming, I should say, for 2 days a week where I don't do anything. none of these things.
Nice.
So there is space to breathe, you know?
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
What are the things that are restful for you? Like, what are activities, or what do you do if in your restful time?
I mean, read, knit, sew, watch trashy TV is what that looks to me. Sometimes going for a drink with friends. Yeah, that's what it looks like for me. What about for you?
A lot of the same. A lot of the same. Reading. Sometimes cooking for me can be if as long as I planned ahead and I have ingredients, I'm not going to run out to the store and then have restful cooking. But if I've pre-planned, cooking can be restful. Sewing, of course, knitting, bad TV. And then I find for myself, this is something that I've kind of learned over years of winter of care and repair when I've been trying to be successful with doing something every day. Having those things out and visible. So having a book where I would usually charge my phone. So I'm, instead of reaching for the phone to scroll, the book is there and it's visible and it's convenient. Cookbooks are out in the kitchen where I usually make my grocery lists. So when I make grocery lists, I can plan a meal. And then, on that, I have the ingredients prepared. Knitting is right by the couch, and I usually have a little. I talked about, we've talked about this in other episodes too, related to winter care and repair. But I kind of batch prepare when I have a little more time. I sort of look forwards to getting the right yarn for that sweater, or cutting out the patch for those socks, and then I put those things strategically around the house. When I have a spare minute, I sit down and do something restful and reviving with my time instead of, I don't know, because I never choose to clean the house. I end up scrolling or I don't know, doing something else.
Yeah.
So yeah, having those things visible so you can easily grab them without having to think where did I put my blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
When you do have that moment.
That's such a good point.
Convenient.
I love that you know yourself so well.
I was thinking, I don't know if this would be something helpful for you, Zoe, because you're talking about on your schedule, but I don't know if you have, XYZ scheduled, and then when you actually put it in your planner, put /knitting or /bad TV. So if it gets canceled, you already have that prompt that this is what I'm going to do instead.
Nice.
If it doesn't work out. So
I like that. Yeah.
But thinking ahead to what am I going to do instead?
Yeah. Keeping a check on our mental health. For me, that's getting back on my meditation app. And it's also doing some daily breathing exercises to help control my anxiety. I also really find it's so obvious, but I have to kind of say it out loud and then schedule it, or at least plan for it. I always feel better when I've been outside. But not outside as in rushing to the supermarket, as in outside going for a walk in the woods normally. I really love being in the woods. And having done that always feels so good. To more of that.
Yeah. And even just 10 minutes walking around your little, if you have outside garden space or something, even if it's the dead of winter, something's still going on there. We have a dog, so we're outside, multiple times a day. But I do think that's going to be a little bit harder after we move, because the weather will be a little drearier potentially. So yeah, but you're right. You're outside, fresh air, you're moving your body. There's probably a tree or something to look at.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, making our homes comfortable, pleasant places. We are thoughtful stewards of our space and our belongings. So this one is a big one, I think. I want to get the various broken things around our house fixed and help my family develop better systems to keep things tidy, so we don't have this big fortnight hellish which we do. We tend to have a big tidy up every fortnight, and it would be nice if it wasn't such a stressful occurrence. Remove, this is a big one I think that we can all do and all be a bit more on top of. We remove items we no longer use or don't serve us, and we get them into the hands of others who will use and enjoy them. I think this is so important. For me, that's going to be, my aim is to list 7 items per week to give away either on the Olio app, Free Cycle, or Marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, something like that. I'm not going to say a thing a day. I'm going to say 7 things a week, because I often find it's easier to batch those tasks,
Yeah. No, it's a great idea.
Oh, yes. Okay, so this is one I do want to talk about. Keeping our belongings in use for as long as we can. We mend them or get them mended where possible. So I'm going to see if I can get the battery of my iPhone replaced because it keeps switching off randomly. And then if I can do that, I'm going to change my phone contract so it's a SIM-only contract to keep the phone going for longer than my current contract, which gives me a new phone every 2 years. I'm going to work through all the garment and textile repairs and alterations that I've been hoarding. I'm going to continue to host my 2 monthly mending meetups for the Patreon community, and I'm going to do more mending in public because I think that is so powerful.
Yes.
Some of these I want to talk about this one. We understand that petroleum-based products will remain on this planet for some form for millennia and will break down and poison the planet as they degrade. So I'm trying to extract plastic from my sewing more consciously. So I'm going to make sure that where at all possible, I'm buying fabrics that don't have synthetic fibres. That's not always possible if we're talking about like swimwear, for example. I don't need to make any swimwear this year, but that you understand my example. And I'm going to invest in more cones of tencel thread because I think I just get like one per colour and then I can siphon some of it off onto the smaller reels. Then I can use it in my normal machine and on my overlocker. Yeah, we touched on moving our money over to banks that don't invest in fossil fuels. I did my bank. But I must be honest, I've got an ISA, a savings thing, that I have yet to move over from HSBC. I've done the first bit. I've opened up the account in the more ethical bank, but I haven't done the second step. So that is definitely going to happen this winter at Care and Repair.
On the list. Yeah.
2 more things, and then that's me. Engaging in social media in a way that feels joyful and enlivening and doesn't distract us or detract from our off-screen lives. I'm going to explore the time limit settings that you can use for Instagram. Have you ever done that or needed to do that?
I have done that in the past. I found it really helpful. The other thing that I have been using lately is an app blocker. So you can you can choose which apps you do not have access to on your phone and set like the time frame. So for me, from like 9 until 4, I don't have access to social media apps on my phone. I can still like log into my laptop and like check in, but it's just like just enough friction that I don't use it. So rather than deleting and reinstalling and deleting and reinstalling, like that's been helpful for me.
That's great. That's great. How do you find those? Is that a setting in your phone or is that something that you have to...
I downloaded a specific app for it.
Which is ironic.
Free, right, I know. It is called App Block.
Right. Fantastic.
Yes. And there's lots of versions out there. This one it tries to get me to upgrade, but I don't know what the upgrade even would be, and it's free and it does what I want. So
fantastic. Brilliant. Thanks for that. But I think it's going to take it as read, but I'm going to put links to literally everything that is possibly linkable that we've mentioned today in the show notes for people to access. They don't need to be scribbling notes. And the last thing I want to talk about is give genuine compliments to others as often as we can. And if we tell people that we admire them and respect them, and we applaud them for their positive actions and efforts. So I want to do that more, and I want to start with you. I want to say thank you so much for everything you do for the whole community. I think you're incredible. I just think you're amazing. I think you're so insightful and so generous with your time and energy. So I just want to say that.
Oh, thank you, Zoe. And I want to throw that right back at you. And thank you for sharing your platform and sharing your ideas and promoting this space for all these great conversations and ideas to be shared. So
thank you. So when does Winter Care and Repair kick off?
It starts on the winter solstice, which is December 21st. And I believe it's a Saturday, but mark your own calendar. Don't quote me on that. And then it wraps up on the spring equinox, which is March 20th.
Fantastic. What do people do if they're in the Southern Hemisphere? Is it the summer of Care and Repair?
It could be the summer of Care and Repair. If you want to participate in the Southern Hemisphere during this time that the Northern Hemisphere is participating, please do. You can also participate during your own winter. So I try to like do a little announcement when it's summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere that it's winter solstice in the Southern Hemisphere. But Yeah, do what you want. Do what you want.
Is there a hashtag this year?
Yes, it'll be Winter of Care and Repair 2024.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Zoe. I would also say if you do participate and share on social media, tag me in your posts and then I can see them and share, because the hashtag sharing thing on Instagram is really
broken hashtags.
Not very useful. But if you want to participate and share and tag me, I will share with the community. And people have said that they do really like seeing that other people are doing it, even if they're not sharing and posting. So.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I get loads of ideas as well from the things that you share.
Yeah, there's so many people doing amazing things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you so much, Zoe.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much, Jeanna. Thanks so much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed this episode and are left feeling inspired. For more info about the podcast, including show notes for this and every episode, head to checkyourthread.com. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have any comments, questions or ideas for future episodes, please get in touch by emailing zoe@checkyourthread.com or find me on Instagram @checkyourthread. Massive thanks to Patrick Potter for production support, to Sylvia Seller for the awesome logo design, and to Simon at Palm Skin Productions for the music. This ad-free podcast would not be possible without listener support, so if you feel you are able, please consider signing up to the Check Your Thread Patreon. For the equivalent of buying me a coffee each month, you'll be making it possible to continue producing regular episodes. Links can be found in the show notes and on the website checkyourthread.com. I hope you'll listen again next week. Until then, take care. Bye!